This morning's class, dynamic yoga, one block. We've got it towards the front of the mat, so it's easy to grab hold of. And it's a standing start. So we just let ourselves settle a little bit. I'm going to take a layer off because I've got all the radiators on since it's snowed outside. And it's a bit chilly out there. I think it's -2 at the moment. So just keeping the room nice and warm for myself. Nice little shake out from side to side. Just tapping the feet out a little bit as well, just to kind of very gently wake the body up. If you felt like you needed something a little bit more energetic, you could actually do the same, but just jumping up and down from one leg to the other and get your breath moving a bit. So if you've been sitting around for a long time, you want to get those lungs moving, that would be a good way to work through. As ever, take care of these classes if there's any sharp pains or anything in any of your joints or your muscles, and allow yourself to lift out of the poses. And if you need to adapt the pose to your needs, please feel free to do. You don't have to do exactly as I say on every move. Let ourselves settle a little bit. We'll just take a surface stretch, so taking the arms out wide. I'm going to wrap the right arm across the chest and just draw the shoulder around a little bit. And taking some purposely big breaths into the ribs, getting them to stretch and expand. So not just waking up the muscles as we change over to the opposite side, but also giving the rib cage muscles a little chance to stretch out and open. As we become more sedentary as a population, the opportunities to get those lungs to work and those ribs to move around and free things up gets a little bit more limited. So practices like yoga become even more important. And then we'll release that. We'll take a little neck stretch as well. So we'll drop the chin in towards the chest to start with. Allow ourselves to draw the chin over towards that left shoulder. And then I'll bring it back down to the center as I exhale. And let it move over towards the right. So just feeling my way through the muscles in the neck, across the top of the shoulders, coming back into the center. Go to the left again. But also giving the discs a little bit of a chance to understand where we're going without sharp movements. I'm going to let the head drop a little towards the back of the mat, not fully, but just enough to allow myself to roll the head all the way over towards the left and then back down towards the front, chin to chest. And then I'll move to the chin towards the left again. Drop the head back that little bit. Starting to look towards the sky, rolling over towards the right and back down again. So beautiful long stretch, chin in towards the chest. Stepping into the front of the mat, allow the arms to come out wide as I breathe in. Feet are hip distance apart and parallel. Going to hinge down to the floor. Going to soften the knees a lot. Keep the spine flat and the belly drawn in. Fingers down to the floor. First one of the day. Just about getting down there and seeing how it feels. We'll come up onto the shins. Let the chest lift forwards a little bit. We'll hinge at the hips again. Soften the knees. Hold ourselves in. Up onto the shins again. And exhaling down. One more time to the shins. And all the way down to the floor. Hands onto the hips. Shoulders and elbows back and a slow lift up. Set hands high on the breath in. And then we'll allow the hands to come behind the back and interlace the fingers lightly. Drawing the shoulders back and the hands to the floor. Take a breath, drawing the belly in. We'll hinge at the hips again. Allow ourselves to come down. And on the inhale of the next breath, lift the hands towards the front of the mat, so going over the top of the head. And try and squeeze the shoulder blades together and a little away from the ears. A little bit more space actually makes it easier to breathe. And we'll bring the hands back onto the hips. Allow ourselves to lift all the way back up. Now take a little breath, bring the feet together and allow the arms to come out wide. Now soften the knees over the toes. Take a little breath, allow yourself to place the weight into the right leg and just cross over gently with the left. I'm going to leave the big toe on the floor, come into eagle pose. You're going to bring the left arm across and the right arm over. So first entry into this, just really waking up the body for balance, using the big toe to steady. And then we're going to release the arms out and untangle the legs. Keep the bend in the knee more or less where it was. Cross over the opposite way. So getting the thighs to squeeze together. Big toe on the floor eventually. Right arm across, left arm over the top. Again, just letting the shoulders relax down, the elbows are right into the ribs. Shoulders are drawn back a little, so the spine is long. And then we can release out of that. It's a nice easy version of eagle pose. Bring the hands in towards the heart. And exhale down to the floor. We'll step back. The down dog. The hands, a little time to stretch out, and the feet. Now from here, we'll draw the right knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through into a lunge onto the fingertips. Just press out through that back heel, allowing the back of the leg to straighten out as much as we can. Really letting the body rest in on that thigh. The fingertips taking very little weight out here. Really more just for steadiness. We'll step back into the down dog. And draw the opposite leg in. And we'll push off the toes into a forward bend. Putting hands onto the shins again, lifting up halfway. Exhaling down to the floor, we'll soften the knees into a deep squat for chair pose. Bringing the hands out in front, palms facing forwards. Allow yourself to lift up halfway. Bring the hands back in towards your heart. Let the legs open fully. Slowly and controlled dive down to the floor into the forward bend. We'll soften back into the squat. Hands come out in front. We lift up halfway. Hands into the heart. Let the legs open out again. And with control, down to the floor. We'll sit back again. Take the hands out in front. Slowly lift up halfway. So those back muscles working with the thighs. Hands into the heart. Hinge forwards. And down to the floor. We'll bring the hands onto the hips this time. Allow ourselves to lift up. We'll bring the feet together, hands in towards the heart. So it's a one-legged chair pose. Bend the knees. Allow yourself to take the weight into your right leg. Keep the knees pinned together. Allow the left foot to scoot forwards so the heel and toes are off the ground. And then bringing the feet back. Crossing over the opposite way. And bring that foot back as well. Allow ourselves to open up. Take the feet nice and wide, standing sideways onto the mat. Turning the toes out, sink down. Allow ourselves to just wriggle a little bit from side to side. So we're going to find that comfortable place where your heels feel like they're directly underneath your knees. And the groins feel like they've opened out a little bit. Got used to the idea of being low. So taking quite a lot of weight through the shoulders at this point, which we're going to change by drawing the tailbone down, lifting the body more to a vertical line and just letting the arms cross very gently in front. As we start to pulse through the legs, lift the arms out to the side, hands come up, cross the wrists over gently, sink back down. Imagine you're trying to slide down a wall. So you want to have the feet in a position where you can keep the pelvis in that neutral plane and sit down nice and low. And then lift your way back. You're going to use a lot of oxygen, so your breathing might go a little awry. As long as you do breathe in and out, then you'll be fine. And just taking it slow, hopefully gives the hip joints and the knees and the ankles a little bit of time to understand and familiarize themselves with where you're going so that the body moves in nice and easily. It's a little bit creaky and crunky. Don't worry. The more we do this, the less that happens. We'll come up for the last time. And bring the hands in towards the heart. We're going to turn the toes now inwards, heels out. Bring the hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back. Allow yourself to hinge at the hips. Down to the floor. We'll come into that wide legged forward fold. You might need to adjust your feet out a little wider. And then allow yourself to sink. Just drawing the elbows in a little bit. Try not to lead with your head, so if you can allow the body to fold from the hips. And we'll let ourselves lift up halfway through. We walk back into a lunge facing the front of the mat. Stepping back into down dog. One last stretch for the hips to the sky. Into plank and the knees down to the floor, where we can sit down onto the heels, bootlaces down, and take the block behind. Bring the hands forwards again. We'll take the feet out about the width of that block. Roll the heels onto the corner edges of the block, just adjusting if you need to, and then turning the toes out. Now, if you don't need a block, fine. If you want to keep your hands on the floor, that feels safe, also fine. If you're able to, bring the hands in towards your heart and press the elbows into the thighs and the thighs into the elbows a little bit, so you start to work through the groin muscles a little bit more. And it gives you a chance to lift your spine up and roll the shoulders back. So it gets easier to breathe if you're able to get in this position. But it's whatever is, feels safe is where you need to be. I'm just sitting here for a minute to kind of let the legs get over doing the pulsing moves that we've just done, and also to settle our breath and mind. I'm going to let the hands come forwards, and I'm going to walk the fingers into the front of the mat, lifting the hips up as I do. So we're getting into that down dog shape and just rolling the heels off the block. I'm going to be either side of that for a moment. Going to scissor the left leg to the sky, let the hip open up towards the sky a little bit, point the toes towards the ceiling. Allow yourself to bend the knee so the heel drops in towards your bottom. Try and lift up onto your tippy toes as you press the hips back and up. Last breath in. Roll the hips back down to the ground. Let the foot come back to the floor wide of that block. We'll take the opposite leg in. And it's going to feel strange with that slightly wider setting through the feet. The hips will move around a little bit more underneath. We'll bend the knee again. Come up onto the tippy toes. Ease the hips up and high and back. And we'll extend the leg out, roll the hips back, and bring the foot down to the floor. We'll draw the left knee into the chest in down dog, and then swoop it out to the side into a big circle. Draw the knee back in towards the chest, out to the side and up, into the center, back out again, into the center. And last time. And then put the feet either side of the block again. Bring the other knee in. Again, it's going to feel a little bit odd in the arms and the shoulders for that wider setting. Get used to practicing with your feet hip distance apart. We're coming for the last time. And bring the foot back down to the floor and let ourselves come down into a plank. Knees to the floor, untuck the toes, sit back down onto the heels, and we'll move that block just out to the side and the front of the mat again. We'll take a breath here, allow the hands to come behind, and lift the knees gently from the floor. We'll lift the chest up towards the sky, roll the shoulders back. Just getting a bit more stretch into the feet, but also beginning to open up the lower back muscles into a back bend. And the head slowly move towards the back of the mat. And then bring the knees down. Allow yourself to lift back up. Sweep the arms up to the sky, one breath. And then let the hands fall towards the front of the mat. Into child's pose, coming down the long slowly. Draw the spine back up by rounding your back and dragging your hands along the floor. We'll take the arms out wide again. And exhale down. Take a breath in. Roll the spine back up. We'll lift up again. Take the hands forward slowly. Breath in. Bring the hands back onto the mat. Allow yourself to lift into your down dog. From that down dog, we'll walk the hands in towards the feet. Bring the hands onto the hips and let ourselves lift up. Going to stand off the mat just a little bit because it's a little bit easier to balance. Standing leg balances. Going to load the weight into the left leg. Interlace the fingers very lightly. Find your focus point. Draw your knee on the right towards you as high as you can so that as you take your hands around the shin, you don't have to dive too much. You want to try and keep your hips pointing the same direction as your standing foot and your knee. Roll the shoulders back a little bit and the muscles drawn in. And we'll release that foot to the floor. Shake it out a little bit. We'll take it into the opposite side. So just interlacing the fingers very lightly and using the knee up to take hold. A little bit wobbly on this side today. And we'll let that foot come back down and give it a shake out. Bring the hands in towards the heart, toes together again, finding a focus point. Allow ourselves to load into the left leg and just draw the right heel up as we turn the toes out. We're coming into tree pose. Now take a little breath from there and slide the foot onto the shin and the calf if you feel comfortable in your balance. And then again, if you feel more inclined, you can bring the heel towards the top of the groin, just pressing the heel and the foot gently in. Bringing hands in towards the heart or extending them out into a little bit of a Y shape with relaxed shoulders and using the benefit of the arms to help with balance. I'll bring the hands back down and bring the feet to the floor. Shake that out again. And then we'll come into the final side. The hands into the heart, we load into the right, pressing down and pushing away. The heel lifts on the left, presses onto the ankle so we can turn the toes out. We take that little breath, work out whether we want to try to lift the foot onto the shin, see how that feels. Now, sometimes your balance feels great on both sides. Sometimes it kind of leaves you a little bit on one side, or if you're unlucky for the day, both. So you take your tree pose as high as you feel comfortable. Higher is not necessarily better. For some people, the higher version will actually feel more comfortable and easier than having their foot against the shin. Might be easier in the hip. Altogether might feel easier on the balance. But for some people, keeping the big toe on the ground, I'm working at that level, is where they need to be. So work on your body is the message. Then we'll take a last breath and bring everything back down to the floor. Always funny when you start to have a bit of a wobble. Bring the feet in towards the front of the mat, and we'll take the hands high as we breathe in. Hands into the heart and exhale down to the floor. The legs have warmed up a little bit. Let's have the lower back muscles. We'll step it back into our down dog. We'll take a nice breath in and come into a plank. We're going to move into half plank, keeping the legs strong, turning the bootlaces down and wandering into an up dog. Knees can be on the floor if they are, press into the shins. Then step over the feet back into your down dog. We'll scissor the right leg to the sky. Draw the knee in towards the chest and step the foot through to the front of the mat. Take a little breath and we'll step into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift up. Inhale high. Hands into the heart and exhale down to the floor. We'll step back into down dog. Come forwards into the plank. Half plank. Up dog. Roll it over into down dog. Scissor left leg. Knee to the chest and foot through. Take a breath. And then we'll step into the front of the mat. Hands onto the hips. And we'll lift up. We'll take that again. We'll add warrior two. Hands come high through the heart. And exhaling down to the floor. We'll step back with the left foot this time. Drop the heel in. Bring the hands swooped alongside the body as we lift the chest a little. Left arm draws forward in line with the torso. We'll cartwheel the entire body up into warrior two. Bring the hands in towards your heart as you breathe in, down to the floor. Straddling the front foot and back into down dog. We'll take the breath in. Come forwards into the plank. Half plank. To up dog. And rolling it back into down dog. We'll scissor the left leg high. Roll the knee into the chest and foot through. Take a breath here. And push off the toes, off the back foot. Into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. We'll lead to the opposite leg. Hands come high. Through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Right leg back. Drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Allow yourself to float the right arm forwards. We'll cartwheel the entire body up. Take the breath in. Hands into the heart. We'll straddle the front leg with those hands. Step it back into a down dog, breathing in. Coming forwards into the plank. Half plank. Up dog. Roll it back into that down dog. Scissor your right leg high. Knee to the chest. Bring your foot through to the front of the mat. Take a breath. Push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands onto the hips. We'll lift up. I'll add to that a little. Hands come high. Into the heart. Exhaling down. We're taking the left leg back this time. Dropping the heel in. Hands alongside the body to lift. We'll float the left arm forwards again. Press down through that front shin. You get a good way to drive through the legs there. This time we'll take the hands high and rotate the chest and the hips towards the front mat, bending the back knee gently. Going to ease the knee to within half an inch of the floor. Then lift back up. Bring the hands down to the ground. Step it back into your down dog. Breath here at the back. Allow yourself to float through as you easy exhale into plank. Take another breath. Push forwards on the toes. A half plank for up dog. And roll it back into your down dog. We'll scissor. Left leg high. Knee into the chest. Foot through. Take a little breath. Push off the toes into that forward bend. Hands onto the hips and we'll lift up. We'll take it high again with the hands. Into the heart. And exhale down to the floor. We're taking the right foot back. Dropping the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Float the right arm out, find your balance point, drive down through that front shin. Hands come high. We rotate into a high crescent, spinning the back heel towards the sky. Catch our balance, lower the knee, half an inch to the floor. Let it lift up, hands down to the ground. Stepping back, okay, I managed to touch the floor that time. Breathing in. Come into the plank, half plank, to up dog. Roll it back into down dog. And we'll scissor the right leg high. Draw the knee into the chest and foot through. Step into the front of the mat. Forward bend, hands onto the hips. Allow ourselves to lift. Whew. Then hands high and towards your heart. Allow yourself to step back. About in the middle of your mat. Shake it out for a moment. Mountain pose. Now I'm going to bring the feet together again. Soften the knees over the toes. Sit back into the heels a little and take the arms out wide. Now take a breath. Load into the right leg. Left leg lifts. We wrap the thigh over. See if we can bring the foot around the back of the calf. For many, it's not going to happen. So just squeezing the thighs together with control. And then bring the left arm over, right arm over the top. This time, eagle pose without a toe on the floor. And we'll release the arms out, untangle the legs, stay in that kind of slightly squatted version. Allow the opposite leg to lift up, so right leg comes across. And then when you're ready, right arm under, left arm over, palms together, elbows into the ribs, shoulders back a little bit. Body is long and flat, breathing heavy. And letting the arms release out. Untangling the legs, allow ourselves to stand up. Shake it all out. I'm going to walk back into the front of the mat. Take the arms wide. This time the feet are about hip distance apart. Allow yourself to soften the knees. Lean into the right leg. I'm going to take the left leg over into eagle. Left arm across, right arm over the top. I'm going to take a breath and unravel the leg. Send the foot to the back of the mat into a high lunge, leaning forward still with those eagle arms. Allow myself to open the arms out wide. And then I'm going to drop the left hand to the floor so the right hand comes up into a twist. Bring the hand back down to the floor on the right side. And allow myself to step gently into that forward bend. Whilst I'm here, I'm going to see if I can take the hands onto the back of the calves and palm facing into those calves, press the calves towards me, which has the effect of drawing my body onto my thighs a little tighter. But physically and mentally, it feels like a very different thing. Last breath here. Bring the hands onto the floor, lift up halfway, fingertip stretch. Then fold it back in. Bring the hands onto the hips and we'll let ourselves lift up. Take the arms out wide again. Soften the knees. We'll take a little breath, weight into the left. Right leg crosses over. So right arm under, left arm over the top. Allow yourself to come into eagle pose, then unravel the leg. Take it back into the lunge. Allow the arms to open out wide. Right hand comes to the floor with control into the twist. Top hand comes to the floor. We step it into the front of the mat. This time, slightly shorter version, hands onto the hips, and allow ourselves to lift all the way back up. We'll take hands high and towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. We'll step it back into plank. I'm going to let the feet roll over towards the left side, so the right hand comes up into the side plank, lifting the hips. The feet position, top leg, foot is flat to the floor, bottom leg side on, flex foot. I'm going to cross over to the other side. Change the feet position, lifting the hip side, remember to breathe. And bring the hands back down to the floor. We'll take child's pose, take the knees wide, heels together. Ooh, and sit gently back down, chest to the floor, chin to the ground, then the forehead. Keeping the arms out, elbows off the ground. Arms flat to the floor, easy in the shoulders. You might need to roll them back a little bit. Okay, we'll lift that way gently back up. Going to come into Dandasana, so just take the feet and the knees out to whichever side you like. We'll start to bring the block a little bit further back as well. So Dandasana, hands by the side of the body, shoulders and elbows relaxed. Now to the sides. I'm going to draw the toes towards me, press the heels out, roll the thighs inwards, and having the feet touching. So big toe joint and ankle bone are placed side by side. And ideally, the big toe joint and the little toe joint should be the same distance from your body. And you achieve that by rolling the thighs in a little bit if your foot is pronating a fraction. And keep the belly drawn in and the sitting bones down to the floor. We're conscious about keeping the head in line with the rest of the body. A stronger pose than it might look from the outside. One that definitely gets the hip flexors, the top of the thighs starting to burn a little bit. Although we're trying to lengthen them away, keep them soft. Last breath in, and we can relax from that a little bit and just move the block behind us so we can lift up onto that. Now I'm going to take the left foot underneath and out towards the right heel. With the knee pointing forwards down the center line, going to wrap the right leg across and tilt the pelvis forwards a little bit to sit upright. I'm going to take the left hand up and cross over towards my right side and take the right hand out to the edge of the mat behind me. And then we'll cross over to the other side. Again, just that little tilt of the pelvis forwards allows the sitting bones the option to come down to the floor. Lift the right arm up, easy twist round. So really revolving around the axis of the spine, okay? The arm and the leg are pressing lightly together, but not much. I'm trying to have the foot connected to the hind knee, in this case my left leg, flat to the floor. And press down lightly through that leg if you can, whilst relaxing the bottom leg. And we can return from there. We'll take the legs out again into Dandasana, but this time I'm going to take the arms out in front. Shoulders are drawn back a little bit. I'm going to take the right arm out to the side, let the chest open up, turn the chest to the long side of the mat, looking towards the back hand. Bring the hand back again and allow myself to cross over to the opposite side. So looking basically to the hand as it comes around, taking ourselves to the opposite side. Now you will feel your legs kind of starting to stretch out and overtake each other as you come through. Keeping the legs strong and active. Into the last side on the left. Let the hands come down. I'll draw the right heel into the groin for Janu Shirshasana. Knee out to the side, spin the heel down to the floor, toes to the sky on that long leg, knee pointing upwards. We'll bring the hand onto the shin with a bend in the knee. On the first exhale, we'll just see if we can bring the belly onto the thigh. We'll take another breath in and exhale and see if we can lower the ribs down. We'll take another breath and see if indeed we can get the chest closer. Leading with the body, letting the head follow. We'll take the hands out, if possible, around the heel, cupping the heel, or holding onto the ankle. Now draw yourself forwards towards your foot, using the strength of your arms, drawing your shoulder blades back. It should have the effect of working a little more intensity into your leg, but keeping your back muscles feeling like they're working, but without a feeling of precariousness. Sometimes it can feel like you're overstretching your lower back, and it feels a little bit wrong in the nerves. This tends to be a little bit quieter, this version, but still has all the effects and benefits. A release, let our way back up. We'll cross over to the opposite leg. So bring the heel in, keep the foot flexed, the toes towards the front of the mat, bending the knees, heel to the floor, toes to the sky, shoulders back, long body. Exhale, belly in. Take a breath. See if you can fold a little deeper, maybe to the ribs. Take another breath. Ease the chest. And hold here. See how it feels. Now I'm going to slide the hands out again towards the heel if it's possible to take hold of. And with the ankle, shin just as good. And slowly start to use the strength of your arms to draw yourself forwards. Be careful not to pull down. And then we can release from there as well. We'll come down to the floor. I'm going to use the block behind. Now, it's a little bit chilly in my room when I'm down on the ground and a little bit too hot when I'm standing. So if you notice that I was breathing out through my mouth a lot during the class when we were standing, the reason was I was trying to cool myself down a little bit. So using a trick from the summer months for the winter months. But rolling gently down to the floor, that block to be underneath the head so it's not pressing into the neck or the shoulders at all. And I'm going to let the arms float out to the side so they're now in line with my chest, so lower than my shoulders and definitely lower than the top of your head. The feet are close in towards the bottom, and I'm going to allow the feet to come onto the center line, knees together, shimmy the hips a little over a comfortable distance to the left, and let the legs roll over to the right. We'll lift the legs back up and ease the hips to the opposite side. Allow the knees to go down to the left. And I'll bring the legs back up. I'm going to lengthen out the right leg. Shimmy the hips over towards the left. Then bring the left foot on top of the right thigh. Going to roll across the hips, bringing the right hand onto that left thigh, letting the left foot out to the side of the mat a little bit. Bottom leg is side onto the mat, shoulders are flat to the floor. Foot of the bottom leg is flexed, toes towards me, lengthening out through the heel to a long, strong leg. I'll untangle from there. And then we'll do exactly the same the opposite way. So left leg lengthens out, shimmy the hips to the right, right foot onto the thigh, and roll both hips over. Allow the right leg to sing out a little bit so the foot goes onto the floor, ideally touching the ground. You can use that left hand on top of your right thigh, trying to keep the shoulders on the ground, and then flex in the bottom leg so the leg is straight. You're pressing out through the heel. Trying to lengthen down the sort of the left-hand side of your body. So you can start to feel your hips moving towards the front end of the mat a little bit more as you stretch your heel towards that place. And then we'll release back up. And bring the spine back into alignment. We'll let the knees come in towards the body. I'm going to take the hands around the shin for a very gentle little hug here. I want to keep the spine flat to the floor. That's the main sort of purpose of this. And rocking a little bit from side to side gently. And carefully ease the feet to the floor, close to your bottom. And we'll take the feet wide, keeping the knees high. The feet are still close towards the body end of the mat. So the legs have TP'd together. We'll allow ourselves to, rather than taking the hands out wide, I'm going to interlace the fingers very lightly across the belly, palms facing down. Elbows out to the side. So we're beginning to move into Shavasana. We'll be here for a minute or so. And just allow those lower back muscles, which feel like they've done quite a lot of work with balancing and stretching and forward bends and back bends and twists. They probably have worked harder than we realize. Yeah, and we'll allow the toes to just start to inch to the corner edges of the mat. Sliding the heels out so the legs eventually can be flat to the floor and letting the toes rock out. Now, if you come into that and it doesn't feel good in your lower back, just bring your heels slowly back in to where they were. Hopefully your eyes can be closed. Draw a soft, easy breath. And begin to wriggle his toes and fingers. Begin to breathe a little deeper. Allow the wrists and the ankles to move. Reconnected with the room fully. You're able to stretch out in any way that feels good to you. And then sliding the heels along the ground. We can bring one knee at a time in again for that soft, easy hug that we gave ourselves before. Getting a little rock on the spine from side to side, or a little stirring of the knees, whatever feels good, but keeping that breath soft and easy. Pulling into a hug and holding your breath is the opposite end of where we want to be. Like it's really soft, like a ball of cotton ball. Roll eventually over to the right side when you're ready. Allow your chest to turn in, use your hands to press into the floor and ease your way back up to sitting. And come into a cross-leg position, sitting tall. We can bring the hands in towards the heart. Your eyes closed, taking a longer breath in. And as we exhale, the chin drop. Allow the belly to draw in. Allow the bow to slowly form in your spine. And as the breath comes back in, allow it to build equally as slowly until the head lifts and opening the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for joining me this morning. Chilly weather it is outside. Hope you enjoyed being inside on your mat. See you again soon.